Hey everybody, in today's video, we're going to take a look at calculated columns in Dataverse and how we can use those to solve some problems you might run into when you're designing and building your Power Pages site, specifically around lists and forms. So let's dive in. And just as a reminder, please subscribe and check out the Power Platform Boost podcast, where every 2 weeks, we provide you with all what's new and exciting in the Power Platform. So it's Nick here. I'm just going to go through some stuff about related columns in tables and how that can help you with your Power Pages projects. And then we're going to cover a couple things that you might run into that are kind of little weirdness, some I wouldn't call them drawbacks, but just little issues that you might run into. So hoping this video will kind of help you out. So first off, let's say I have my widget table. I have widgets descriptions, and I'm going to use that to create a view. So this is something very simply done in the data workspace or even in Power Apps. So I went here to the Power Pages homepage. I have a site already provisioned. I'm going to go into that. And what I've done is I've created a table in widget called widgets, like very simple thing. So I'm going to go here into my data workspace. And we see I have my widgets table. Pretty straightforward. I have the name, description, and I have the supplier. Now, the supplier is a lookup to the account table. I've decided to use the account table for this. Now, when you're setting up a table, you might want to, one of the requirements is, hey, for widgets, we want to see who the supplier is. So yes, I could have easily just created a text field called supplier and filled that in. But if you noticed, I have a repeat here. I have a Datum Corporation. We have Litware showing up a couple times. So it would be kind of inefficient if we were going to keep re-adding and re-entering these things. Plus, there might be some other information that you want to look at. So we're going to actually relate those tables. And simply what I would do here is I've already added it, but it's a what we call a lookup column in Dataverse. Now, if you've been working with Dataverse and Power Apps, you're probably very used to this. We have here, it's a lookup, set to optional, and I have related to the account. Pretty straightforward how to do that link directly in Dataverse, but let's just visualize that for a second. So here I have my widget table, which has the widget description. I have a supplier. I just kind of threw in a key here. Now it would be a GUID, which would be like a 25-digit letters and numbers combination, but just for simplicity, I drew it out as like a 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. That would be unique. And this will link to the supplier key in the supplier table, which in our case, we're reusing the account table, which is fine. And I'll have things here like the supplier name. What actually happens on the view that you create in Dataverse, it's going to show you the lookup, the primary name of that lookup. So this is good. We actually can show some related information from that other table. And if we go in here and we update something in the supplier table, that's going to be automatically reflected in that view. So this is where, being able to relate tables, and this is really data modeling 101. So if you're getting into building Power Pages for the first time or even into Power Apps, take some time, learn a little bit about data modeling. It's really going to help you in your projects down the road. So I'm back here in my data workspace. Now, the cool thing is suppose that we have this user requirement to show the supplier city in our Power Pages site as well as the supplier. The view editor has a neat little feature where I can go in and I can create a view here. So this is my table. I'm going to go over to my views now. And here's another thing. If you're working on a project and you're working in the data workspace, don't forget to click the little set the solution button here. I'm going to set that to Power Platform Week. That was a project I worked on earlier, if anybody of you caught that. This is important to be able to keep everything in one solution. This is good for ALM. So that's tip number one. I'm going to have a few other tips throughout this video. So good, we've set the solution. I'm going to go into my active widgets view that I've created earlier. And we have the name, the description. And now what I want to do is add another view column, but it's not from the widgets table. It is from the supplier table. So I'm going to hit plus view. And then here we have this thing called related. So here are all the columns. I'm going to call them fields throughout this video. It's like fields, columns, columns, fields, same thing. Microsoft likes to change names and we all have to catch up, just the way it is. All right, so I'm gonna, these would be all the columns for widgets here, but I click on this related and I see all the linked tables that are linked to widgets. Now, a bunch of tables get linked out of the box. I'm gonna go to the supplier, which is the account. I'm gonna expand this out and we see a bunch of other things here. I wanna add the city. Remember, our requirement was we wanna be able to see the supplier city in our view. So I've done this. This is all good. I'm gonna hit save. It's going to save those changes into that solution. Remember, we picked earlier, and I'm going to publish the view. By publishing the view, it's really just setting it up, saying, yep, it's ready to use in an app. So we've done this, and now what I'm going to do is going to go into pages. And this is something you've all seen probably 100 times before. I'm going to create a widget list page, start blank. If you've not, stick around for the ride. If you've seen this already, you can just hit the little fast forward button a little bit. So I'm just going to hit the add a text here. I'm going to call this widget list. It's the title of my page. I'm going to flip that from paragraph to heading one. Neat little tools we have here. Now I'm just going to add a spacer below that. And I'm just going to click again. I'm going to add a list. So what this list is doing is it's going to take that Dataverse view and it's going to create its own object. So they're related, but they are separate. So to hit a new list, I'm going to pick my table. I'm going to choose widgets again. And I'm going to check the views. I can click one or more views. For now, I'm just going to choose one, but we could have picked other ones as well. And I'm just going to name the list. I'm just going to call this widgets. Pretty straightforward, or a widgets list. So we have that there. In terms of the actions, I'm not going to, I'll come back here later because we are going to drill down. And then more options, we are going to turn on the search because we're going to want our users to search from that list. Total records 10, that's fine for now. I'm just going to click OK. And what's going to happen is it's going to create that list. Again, pretty straightforward. For some reason today, it's not able to show you the preview. These things happen, it's fine. I'm going to click on a new permission here because we're going to need to set up the table permissions. So it's given me a name already. It's given me global access. Now I can adjust this a little bit later. That's sort of a slightly different topic. This kind of goes into table permissions and relating. I'm going to give the ability to read this information, and I'm just going to add some roles. So I'm going to add the anonymous and the authenticated. Those are out of the box roles. Of course, I could create my own custom roles as well. And I've set this up pretty straightforward. I hit save. And again, gives me a warning that because I chose the anonymous, everybody can see this. So this is a private site at this point, so it's not that big of a deal. But again, these are things you should consider when you're building your Power Pages sites because you're exposing Dataverse data to the entire world. All right, we've set this up. Now let's just take a quick little preview of the. All right, so I'm here. I've got to my widget list. This is great. I'm showing the list. This is something I've demoed 100 times before. We're linked to a Dataverse table. Of course, everybody in the world can see it because we give anonymous access. This is cool. I can do a sort. I can sort on description. I can sort on supplier. But here's the problem. If I try to sort on my supplier, notice it's not supporting, or the supplier rather one, the address one city. It's not able to sort on that. This seems really weird. Why can't I sort on this? The reason being is this column is coming from a related table. And this is something that's within Power Pages. You're not able to, as soon on default configuration or out of the box, you can't sort on a related column. However, this is easily fixed with a site setting, and this is in our docs. So our docs, the Microsoft's docs. I'm doing this for fun. Anyways. So what you can do is we can actually add that site setting. So let's take a look at that. All right, so I'm in the portal management app. Let's just make that a little bit bigger for you can see. That is a model-driven app that you can go and add the other configurations and settings. You can get to it from the Design Studio or the Power Pages homepage, or just even through apps and Power Apps. Anyways, I'm here. I'm going to go to Site Settings. We have our list of site settings here. I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to basically, I'm going to key in the site enable sorting on linked entities. So that is the site setting. Like I said, it's in the docs. If you go to the corresponding blog to this video, it has the link there. I'm going to pick my website. And the value, we're going to set this to true. And you put in a description if you want, sort related columns. Cool. I'm just going to hit save here. Save this. Now let's go back to our site to see if what this has done. All right, I'm back on the site here to my widget list once again. And now let's see what happens. Now our sort works. So that's just a site setting. So that's the first problem we resolved with those related columns is the sorting. But here's the next question. And this came from a friend of mine who was working on a Power Pages project, and he was trying to do a search. So let's just say that we want to search for the different cities where these suppliers exist. So I would just go in here and I'm thinking, okay, show me all the records that are Redmond. Nothing appears here. It shows up blank. So a Power Pages user, and again, we could have users out from the community and the public and even anonymous users, they're like, oh, I guess there's no suppliers in Redmond. But if we actually just clear that out and look, hey, we do have suppliers in Redmond. So what's the deal here? Like, is there something wrong? Let me just try searching Dallas. Same deal. Something is wrong here. We can't search on that. And that is actually a known issue is that we can't search on um, related columns within Power Pages on the lists. I'm going to show you a way that we can resolve that, but I'm going to actually show you yet another issue that exists within configuring Power Pages. So I'm once again in the data workspace. I'm actually going here. I'm in my forms. I want to create a form that I want people that are looking at particular widgets if they want to get some more information. And this is using, if you're new to Power Pages and you're wondering why does this form look a little bit different, this is because it's using the model-driven app form designer, something that anybody who's been creating model-driven Power Apps for years are fairly used to. I have my name supplier, but let's say we have a requirement that we want to show the supplier city. So I would go here, but I don't have that ability. In forms and Dataverse, we can't show related fields on the form directly. Like I can't pick the field here. There is the way to do that, the prescribed way is we go to components. There is something called in terms of display, the quick view. And what I could do from the quick view here is I can choose my lookup, which again is supplier. And then I would actually pick another view. I'd have to create another form to basically, and that form could be just the supplier city. I could pick that form and inject that on this form just to get the supplier city. So it is an option. To me, it's a lot of clicks. It's a lot of extra work. I'm going to go back and show you a way that's going to solve this problem as well as that previous problem we were looking about searching. So I'm going to discard this. Let's go back to the widget table. So we're here and back in the data workspace. There's something in Dataverse called calculated columns. Now, if you've worked with Dataverse and model-driven apps before, you're probably very familiar with this. Calculated columns are exactly what they are. You can do some calculations like simple math calculations, or you can even do date calculations, all that kind of fun stuff. But there is something else that I really like using calculated columns for, and that's where I can refer to fields in related tables, which means I could pull in that city column and make it act like it's almost a column in my widgets table, and then I can get around some of these things that we run into. So how do I do that? So I'm here in the data workspace and here I'm in the tables. I'm going to go to the views. Actually, no, I'm going back to tables. That's where I want to be. And here I'm going to pick a new column. And here I'm going to call this supplier city. And I know I started earlier about talking about not having to duplicate data and having the related table. We're still doing this, but we're kind of going back a little bit. Single line of text, format, good behavior. This is the key right here. We're going to change the behavior to calculated. And what's going to happen is we're going to make a calculated field, calculated column. I told you I was going to say field a bunch of times. If I say CRM, then you're allowed to smack me. So, all right, we're waiting for that to save. And what's going to happen is we're going to have this pop-up show up. Now, make sure your pop-up blocker is unblocked or you won't see this. We have this calculated field. Again, we don't have to worry about conditions because we're always going to want this to happen. I'm going to click on add actions. And what I'm going to do is expand that feed, that whole table out so you can see the whole shebang. So here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my supplier table. And here it's got the prefix in there. It's a lookup. I'm going to choose this. Here's the trick. Not too many people know this. I hit the dot or the period, whatever, and now I can see the related fields of the supplier table. So I can say supplier.address1city, and that's going to fill in the supplier city in my widgets table. So I'm going to click there, save and close that. It's processing, saving that column to Dataverse and that calculation. And now I have the supplier city. Now this is blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a refresh, and boom, we now have those city values showing up in this column, which for all intents and purposes is being treated exactly like it's a column in the widgets table. What does this mean? Now, if I can go to views, I'm going to go into the active widget view that we created that spun off that table. And now I have that address one supplier. Again, that's that related column. I'm now going to go, and again, from here, I'm going to pick the widget. I'm going to find supplier city, and it's the exact same thing. So even if I were to update this in my account table, this would automatically be effectively refreshed and show up here. I'm going to actually remove this one completely. I'm going to hit save. We're going to hit publish view. And now that we've done this, I'm going to go back to my pages where we have our widgets list. And let's hit the preview button. I have this here. So now I can actually do a search. If I search for Redmond, boom, I can now search and I'll see Redmond show up in those search results. So we resolved that particular problem by having that calculated column here. Let's take this a step further and let's take a look at the forms. So once again, I'm in data workspace. I'm going to go on my widget table. I'm going to go into forms. I've created a form earlier. It was the one we were looking at, trying to add that particular component. And now when I add field, I can add the supplier city. So because that's that calculated field. So I'm going to expand that a little bit. So you see this, I've added that supplier city. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to publish that form. That's been published. Let's just go and add a details page here. So what I'll do is I'm going to add a new page. I'm just going to call that widget details. I don't want to put this on my main navigation. I'm just going to start from blank. And here we'll just add the form. Here is going to add a brand new form. Again, widget. I'm going to choose that website widget form. I'm going to name the copy of the form here. I'm going to type in edit. If you've read my other stuff before, I'm always a big fan of what is it you're going to do with that form, whether you're going to create, read only, or edit, but putting in that into the form. So I'm going to say edit widget. The data, again, because we're going to edit, we're going to say updates an existing record. On submit, I'm just going to have that redirect back to my widget list page. Caption, I'm going to shut those off because I find them annoying, but really you probably should have them on. We're going to click OK here. It's going to see now I have that supplier city that's already there in my form field. Now this is going to be read only. In most cases, that's probably going to be okay. We're going to need to up the permissions a little bit if we want users to be able to update that information. So I'm just going to go on that widget list permission right now. Again, it's giving me the warning. I'm going to add a child permission. Reason why I need to do that because we're linked to the supplier table. I want to be able to read this. So, which is account, relationship. Let's do permission to read. Let's actually do a write and fill out those append. We don't need to fill in the roles because we already have that associated with our main table permission, which is that widget list. Also do a write and append to here as well, just because we're going to just create that edit page. And we're almost done here. That's all good. We've got the table permissions. Now we just got to go back to the list and do that final little wire up to link those, edit list. Let's go into actions here. Let's go into either view details or edit record, just pretty much the same thing these days. I'm going to choose web page and choose the widget details. I could have chosen just form as well. It doesn't really matter. And we're going to click OK. So we have this here. Now, actually, let's preview to see our site again. So here we are. We have this. I can actually go here to the edit. And there we have the supplier city. It's on that form. We couldn't do that before. So we're using that calculated column for that. So overall, a lot of neat things that we can do with calculated columns. I'm a big fan. You can even do a kind of a grandfather. You can have multiple levels. So yeah, check it out. Hopefully that helps you out on some of your, if you hit a roadblock on this type of thing. If you run into a roadblock, really hope that helps you out. Appreciate you watching this video all the way to the end. And I'm going to keep trying to do a few more of these to provide some more tips. So if you want to learn more about this kind of things and how to build Power Pages and get you ramped up in a really short amount of time, I'm holding a full day workshop on April 28th as part of the Iberian Summit. So sign up today. Hope to see you there.